Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, and welcome to Nerd Tube. We're talking Trek and Orville today, and I'm here with Cousin Cheeto. How you doing?
Doing good.
And I'm also here with Major Rage. How you doing?
Doing great. Proud to be here, guys.
Jumping in the cockpit at the
Fantastic.
last second.
Oh, I thought he was doing a
Sorry.
satanic ritual. Oh, there we go, but fair enough. He's got the lights on. All right, okay. So we had a very interesting episode of Trek. We'll talk about Orville obviously later on. I just want to quickly say hello to Commodore Boone. How you doing, mate? Good to see you, my friend. And today's episode of Orville. Um, and hello to you, Facebook user, whoever you may be.
Hold on, I'm
And
jumping over there now.
yeah, we're gonna find out who you are in a second. So
Oh, it's
anyway, as I said,
it's Megan.
oh hello, Megan. Nice to see you. So we had a very fascinating, interesting, and definitely a callback Easter egg episode of Strange New Worlds, but it did obviously hit us with a hammer blow by the end. Something theoretically was inevitable, considering this is a prequel series, and some of these people are not going to be on the Enterprise in a few years' time. So in a way, it kind of made sense, but nevertheless, it kind of felt a little bit early too. Emma, rest in peace, my friend. You will definitely not be forgotten. And this is like Tasha Yar all over again. But nevertheless, fantastic episode. What was the name of this episode? The subtitle of it, Mage?
Sorry.
All those who wander.
Very nice. Okay, so before we start breaking down this episode and into little pieces, let's give us opinions on it first. If you don't mind, I will start with this episode. Well, as I said earlier, this episode was full of Easter eggs. This episode reminded me of Aliens, Alien 3, Predator, even Jaws. Jaws, you could tell with the music, Jaws was in there as well. All of that. And I thought to myself, there's not. And then you got like your cannon fodder Starfleet members who, if you've never seen them before, they go on an away mission, and they're dead. Yeah, I mean they're dead to be killed off. Hello, Bandit. Nice to see you, my Danish friend. And they're going to be killed off, and that was inevitable. It would be nice if sometimes these people you don't see at all in any episode who finally join the fucking away mission, and they have a few speaking parts that they don't fucking get killed off. That'll be original. For them getting killed off wasn't original. But overall, what I found about this episode, that regardless of all the familiarities, it ends with a stinger, a big fucking stinger. And it almost felt like a season finale, and it isn't, which is kind of what's so amazing about this episode. There's more to come, so we'll see what happens next week. But yeah, I enjoyed it regardless. It was a good thrill ride. Michael, welcome. Says this is going to shock you all, but I really like this episode. I'm shocked. I think it's not only the best episode of the season, but it's the best episode of Star Trek since 2005. What was happening in 2005? We're talking Enterprise.
Yeah, the season finale of Enterprise, man, the best, or the series finale, the best series finale of any Star Trek ever.
Oh,
Ever.
top class, top
Oh,
tier.
by the way,
Yeah.
I love the
Riker
profile
was in
picture,
it.
by the way.
Troy was in it. Oh yeah, it was the best. No, yeah, actually, we'll get into it in a little bit, Mike. I'm very happy to hear that you really enjoyed this episode because, I mean, if you want, Dan, do you want me to get into my thoughts or?
Yes, please.
I really enjoyed it. I said it last week. I'm going to say it freaking again. What a great time to be space sci-fi fans. We have got two fantastic shows running at the same time that, in my opinion, are knocking it out of the park every single week. I'm not. I mean, I feel like Strange New Worlds has had so many more hits than misses. Orville so far in 5 episodes has, I don't think there's been a single episode that's even been remotely even mediocre, in my opinion. I'd have to go back and double check, but it is such a great time to be a Trek fan because let's be honest, Orville is pretty much Trek. So it is a great time to be a Trek fan. And now, Mage, on to you.
Awesome. No, this was a fantastic episode for sure. I'm I feel like we're losing a lot of potential for great characterization and lots of things they could have done with him or by losing him so early on. And I love the character and I'm going to miss him. And I feel like anytime we get an Andorian on Star Trek lately, we lose him after one season.
And lose. That's an Andorian.
I'm blanking on the character name from Discovery season 3.
Oh, I know who you're talking. Okay, Tilly's real life husband. Okay, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, Noah. I missed the chance to see an interview with him earlier today. That kind of sucked.
Okay, Michael Strathmore, thank you very much. Look forward to reading it. Take care, mate.
I always enjoy reading his. I always tell him he should do like some kind of like Cinema Sins version for Trek or something because he does it so well.
We should get him on board. Sorry, mate, please continue.
So no, it was a really good episode. Do you guys want me to get to like a quick rundown of it, and we'll pause and talk about it? All right. So we started with Uhura's personal log and a party celebrating the promotion of Ensign Duke and her and Cadet Chia finishing up their tour duty on Enterprise. We have a moment between Ortegas and Uhura where she tries to get her to enjoy the party. We have a moment between the captain and Uhura where he tells her that despite her confusion right now, there'll always be a place for her on the Enterprise. Spock calls. There's a Priority 1 communication coming in from Starfleet Command, and they get tasked with a new mission, even though they're in the middle of a very important and time-sensitive mission. There's a ship, the USS Peregrine, and they've lost contact with it on an L-class planet, Vallejo Beta 5. And so they decide to split up. Pike leads an away team, rescue team, against Una's protests. And we get a little funny bit where he likens it to taking the kids on a road trip.
Well, this is when I knew that they were going to die, by the way, Mage. The very moment we saw, these kids are going on an away mission. All right, you're not coming back, are you? Yeah, so we needed some Starfleet members to get killed. We're not going to kill off the main cast. So I assumed, you know what I mean? But nevertheless, we needed some people to get killed off early on.
So, Pike and his crack team head off on the rescue mission, and we got credits roll. What did you guys think of the interactions between Ortegas and Uhura and the captain and Uhura during this scene?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. You got to pick who you want.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay. So I thought it was okay. Ortegas is kind of, I like her character, and I know a lot of people are annoyed by her character. I like her character. But I didn't feel like these interactions were anything super special. I actually felt like more of the Uhura interactions with people later in the episode was much more memorable, obviously, than stuff here in the beginning.
I actually found Ortegas to be okay today. I usually find her to be very frustrating because she's too busy. She gives too many quips for my liking. She overdoes it when they're in stressful situations. It's just too much. But here we are in a more relaxed situation, send-off parties, graduation, whatever that shit was in Pike's place. I mean, always an excuse for him to cook a meal, though, by the looks of things. But I did very much like Ortega's interaction with Uhura because they're in a party setting and she's being very formal with Ortegas. They should just be able to relax a bit and just have a laugh and a joke. They're not in a serious setting where she should talk to her as a commanding officer. This is a party, but but she's so afraid of losing people, considering what happened to her mum and dad, that she doesn't want to get too close to people again, which is also why she's probably considering she was planning on making a move. Obviously, that changed for particular reasons, as we'll get to. But yeah, you can see, like, if anybody had an arc this season, it definitely was Uhura, for sure.
I agree with you, Ortegas. She grew on me this week. Just kind of seeing her be more authentic a person and let that guard down. You know, that wall of quips she keeps up. So hoping they continue to mix it up with that character.
I agree.
So the rescue team heads down. They enter the communication blackout zone. The last thing Pike says is he asks number one to get to the rendezvous at that space station, K7.
Was K7, which D7 is the one from the original series, right? In the Tribbles.
I'm not certain. I'm not very knowledgeable on TOS. I've only seen them a couple of times.
Gotcha. Hold on. You keep going. I'll look it up.
When they set down, they have to set down several kilometers from the ship. They get inside, and it's a complete wreck. All the controls have been rerouted to engineering. The dark matter reactor's down. Himmer says that he's got to get to engineering to do anything. He tasks Spock with trying to get the bridge controls back on. Dr. Omega and Lon found 20 dead outside the ship, mostly of hypothermia. And but the other team outside makes a grisly discovery, a severed arm. So,
by the way, when we started that whole thing, I knew it was going to be Gorn. The way they had been building up the Gorn and then I knew it was going to be the Gorn. Like, I knew that we were going to circle back to this eventually.
Well, if they didn't fucking give us a previously on, then I would have been more surprised. But I skipped the previous.
See, I skipped the previously on, so
I don't have that luxury at this moment in time. I am considering of getting Paramount Plus though. Was this the K7 space station?
Yeah, which one? Mage, which one did you say they were going to?
K7. K7.
So it is the same one with the Trouble with Tribbles. So that's an Easter egg. I thought it was the station that they went to with the Trouble with Tribbles. So maybe we'll see Space Station K7 in the next episode.
I thought it sounded familiar, but I didn't want to try to cite which one it was from without being sure.
Because I think it's right at the Klingon Federation border or something like that. I don't remember, but continue, Mage. Sorry.
So Uhura, she manages to get just the audio of the captain's log, which the captain was one of the 20 dead previously. Turns out they picked up 3 people marooned on a planet, and one of them, an Orion, the other was a human, and then there was an unknown species of alien. The Orion had Gorn eggs in him, and so the crew got massacred by Gorn, and she warned to stay away if she could reach out to anybody.
So are the Gorn asexual for a start? Like they need a male or female, and the way they produce is by spitting on things. I mean, like before they discovered space travel, how were they reproducing? I mean, were they spitting on each other and then that'll lay eggs? You know, is that how they do it?
Maybe the larger native animals on the planet use those as the host.
Okay,
but
these things are curious.
Yeah, I don't know if they've never been specifically mentioned. They do have male and female, it says, but yeah. So they're definitely males and females, is what it says.
If they don't mate, then what's the point of having male and female if they don't need to mate?
I'm just telling you what Memory Alpha says. So
okay.
Memory Alpha is one of the. I mean, now they may be
Yeah.
changing canon here. I mean, maybe, but I mean, I don't know.
Okay.
So Captain Pike asks Lon what her opinion is, and she says that they should kill them all. And if they can't kill them all, at least just find any survivors and GTFO, basically. And
yeah, Sing's out for blood for sure. You know,
and
she wants some payback.
Her trauma and her rage towards them starts to show in this scene. We cut to, Uhura finds one human and one unknown type of life sign. That all three head that way, and they find more mangled bodies along the way. They
some of these bodies were damaged because of the snowstorm. They weren't necessarily damaged because of the Gorn. Is that correct?
But the ones inside seem to be pretty consistently mangled by the Gorn.
No,
yeah.
I think the reason why they all went outside because the Gorn wouldn't go outside. So the people who went out, I think the 20 people who went outside died from from frost exposure.
I think somebody hypothesized that maybe they tried to lead the Gorn out of the ship, but then when the storm came up, they couldn't see to find their way back in. And Manga said it seemed like they'd been out.
Yeah, I recall that. Oh, one more thing though, what happened to the Gorn that did all the killing?
I think all the Gorn died, and then the only ones that were left, I think they did lure them out and they killed them. Just the problem is that there was still one person left on the ship infected.
Okay.
And that's where the other 4 Gorn came from. Well, 3 after initial hatching came from.
So when they find a blue alien and it's very defensive, they end up trying to they put their weapons down and they calm it down, and it takes them to a little girl who must be one of the other survivors.
Oh, you mean Newt?
Yeah, I was about to say, is her name Newt?
Yeah. He's giving a proper Newt vibes, man, for sure.
So Spock comes to the med bay and asks Nurse Chapel for a dermal generator. It seems the new lieutenant's injured himself. They end up discussing, how Vulcans repress their emotions. We cut to another interpersonal scene. It's Uhura and Hemmer, and they're talking about Uhura's fears. She thinks that she's coasting. He says that her fear isn't that, but it's of putting down roots. So we cut to sick bay. The little girl, it turns out her name's Oriana. She's being kind of, examined by Dr. Mbenga and Chapel. And then Lon starts grilling her to the point where the doctor tells her to get out.
The doctor actually said, stop talking like that to my daughter. Which I found a really terrible line. It's like,
yeah, it seemed kind of unnecessary.
Well, I put that part in where he has that slip, and then they only have like one other scene where they discuss it, and it's kind of needless both times, and just seems like to left out the length of the episode.
I thought there might be some bond between Mbenga and that girl, but other than carrying her on her back to the bridge of the derelict ship, they did nothing together really.
Right.
She was mainly hanging around with Chapel, if anything. It was a stupid line, but I was thinking to myself, that girl's the problem. You know what I mean? Because, and I totally understood where Singh was coming from, because you've got a fucking, just because she's a little girl doesn't mean shit. You know what I mean? She could be in disguise, she could be a Gorn trap. All of these things, considering what we saw the Gorn was like a few episodes ago. These are cunning motherfuckers, man. They would use a little girl like her as bait if they had to. And I was totally behind Singh for grilling the shit out of that little girl. I don't know what you thought, Gio.
I mean, I don't know what her what was her purpose besides to look like Newt in this episode? like, you know, go around the corner and
Yeah, I agree.
like she didn't do anything. She didn't, and as I said, I mean, just them finding a little girl, okay, whatever, you know, a survivor, but it's not like she was hiding that well. It's not. I
Or
mean, what's his face?
advising.
Huh?
Or advising. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
like
Yeah.
there was no real purpose for her being there in the long run. So
She just seemed like a set piece for La'an's story in this one, and the culmination of her plot arc.
yeah,
And as you know, kind of, you know, and then her family connection becomes a MacGuffin to take La'an off of the show and off the Enterprise. But no, definitely another of the weaker points of the episode, just kind of a loose thread with or wasted potential with her. So Lon discovers that the little girl's been missing for 2 years. She guesses that the people were refugees from a Gorn brooding planet. Pike,
Born brooding planet.
yeah. So Pike decides that they need to do a security sweep to see if they can find any more Gorn. Dr. Mbanga, you know, he kind of uses emotions that we get from music via, you know, from our reflections and memories during the music to kind of talk to Lon and ask her to help the little girl. And, you know, that's where we get the, you know, that what her point is in the episode. You know, since they have similar trauma and she's the only one who can understand what this girl's going through. We cut to Spock, you know, he hears a clattering, he finds more blood trails, he gets startled, you know.
I just want to say I'm glad you brought that up, because the moment he was chasing that sound and then Pike comes up behind him and taps him on the shoulder, that was such a scene. There was a scene in Aliens just before all the aliens started killing all the Marines. Like, they got the movement and stuff like that. They're not allowed to have weapons that is, like, you know, that can cause fires and all that sort of stuff. And there's a moment just before everything goes down. One of the Marine guys taps the other Marine guy on the shoulder and spooks him for a second. And that was exactly the same sort of thing they played out here in Strange New Worlds. And that's when I knew that this episode was going to be very much like Aliens. And it was, you know, so yeah. I mean, I don't mind them doing the callbacks and stuff like that, you know. Sometimes people like all that shit, and it's good to see it done in a different format. So I very much enjoyed that.
Yeah. And if it wasn't obvious by that point, we go full-blown alien in the next scene where the blue alien is sick in sick bay, starting to seem, you know, ill. And, you know, Oriana notices this and kind of she backs away. And we end up seeing the Gorn hatchlings pop out of this guy, just like Alien. You know, Nurse Chapel has to run and hide. She gets behind a barrier. Eventually, Lon comes to the rescue for Nurse Chapel. Unfortunately, Lieutenant Duke, the new promotee, he gets killed by one of the Gorn hatchlings right in front of Spock, Pike, and Kirk, I want to say.
And that girl as well, she gets killed first.
She got killed in Med Bay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so much for making an advancement in Starfleet. You're going to die first.
Yeah, exactly. So we had one blue shirt, one yellow shirt, and one red shirt die today, like traffic lights. Okay.
So Hemmer gets power restored, but then he and Uhura are attacked. Right, it spits something, and Hemmer jumps in front of Uhura and takes it kind of on his face and neck. With power back up, Pike's able to make a communication wide, calls for everybody to huddle up in sick bay. When we get there, Sam Kirk's kind of losing it, and
I forgot he did in this episode. He really was Sam Rockwell, wasn't he? In this episode, he really was.
Yeah, we're all gonna die. We're all gonna die, and you're just standing here not reacting. And he says that kind of Vulcan phobic stuff, calls him Spock pointy-eared computer, and Pike takes command, and he says we need a plan. What do you
part
got
of
to say?
McCoy will be played by Sam Kirk in this episode.
Yeah, it was direct. It was directly pulled out of the Leonard McCoy playbook. That line for sure.
I'm surprised you didn't call him a green-blooded son of a bitch. That's about it. McCoy actually is the most racist fucker on the planet.
Oh yeah, McCoy was super racist. I mean,
oh god, yeah. The way you comment on people's appearances all the time, Anyway, sorry, I apologize for the tangent.
No, it's all good. They come up with a plan to push the Gorn where they want them by making it colder in most of the ship. Vaughn describes kind of like how you would taunt the Gorn by being very aggressive. You see the plan start to come into motion. They lower the temperatures. Spock comes out to try to lure one out. He ends up kind of tapping into this Vulcan like battle lust and lets out this like epic scream. Calls it starts smashing at the vent area to try to lure it out because it's been moving through the vents to get out of the cold.
That's when they went all Velociraptor, because apparently these Gorns are supposed to fight each other, but they went a bit Velociraptor and worked as a team.
Mm-hmm.
One luring him, one distracting him while the other one attacks him, and it was Sam Kirk who saves him.
Yeah, despite what he said earlier, he looks out for him. Almost, getting assaulted himself for doing so. Spock was in the middle of that battle rage. So they end up finally luring it into the cargo bay, and Lon jumps down into one of the crates, closing it just in the nick of time, and Hemmer freezes it. And here's where we get to the sad part. Hemmer, after everybody leaves the bay, after they're victorious, it's revealed that he's infected. He locks them out, and we get some sad goodbyes to Spock and Uhura before he exits, noting how much it's like Andoria, and just kind of falls from the cliff.
This once again this reminded me of Alien 3. Like just before, Sigourney Weaver's character, when she dies at the end of Alien 3, she jumps off the balcony, so to speak, and lets her body burn. And in this particular case, he lets his body freeze, knowing that it's going to kill the Gorn. It was just like Alien 3, it really was. Also, the chasing around the fucking cabins and stuff was like Alien 3 as well, with the Predator vision. So, yeah, that's sorry for interrupting, I apologize.
No, all good. That was a good break point. Cheeto, what did you think about all the action sequences and their plan?
Oh, I thought all of it was perfect. I mean, it was a great, even though, yes, this is a prequel, so we know Spock, we know what's going to happen with Spock. We know what's going to happen with Nurse Chapel. We know what's going to happen with Pike. We know what's going to happen with Sam Kirk. We know what's going to happen with a lot of these characters. Mbenga. I still feared for, Hemmer and really the other people who already died. I'm trying to think if there was anybody else on the away mission that wasn't guaranteed, but I mean, that part just with Hemmer, man. I mean, I get your comparisons to Alien, but I don't know, man. That really broke me. I was like, oh, Hemmer, oh God. And I saw it coming. Don't get me wrong. Once he got sprayed, I'm like, is he infected now? Like I kind of saw that coming.
I was thinking that, considering he never got acid burns, if he's not going to be burning, then what the fuck? So yeah, I was thinking he might have got infected too.
Yeah.
But
But
I thought they would end the day save his ass at least, but that's not the case either.
That's what I thought. I thought that they were gonna medical, because since Mbenga and Nurse Chapel was there, I thought they might, medical shishkumba him back to health or whatever and get the Gorn out of him. But I mean, they did it. They're ballsy, and Hemmer's a great. I mean, I'm gonna miss Hemmer, but sometimes, like especially in an episode like this that carries all, in my opinion, this episode carried a lot of weight to it for this show because the Gorn is something that they've been building up since episode 1. With La'an. So, and then it kicked into high gear, and what episode 4 I think was when the Gorn came back around. So I really feel like that this episode had to have some kind of sacrifice in it to put some weight to the Gorn, because they've really been building them up as this terrifying thing. And yeah, you kill the cadet lady that is going back to Starfleet, and you kill the ensign guy that just got promoted to lieutenant, and those are whatever. But like, now every time you see a Gorn, or a Gorn episode, it's going to be like those bastards that kill Hemmer, So I really feel like this is going to put a big weight on the Gorn, and I really hope they expand on this.
Yeah, what was the name of the Bajoran engineer from Lower Decks? Shanks.
Yeah. Oh, Shax? No.
Shanks. No, but
that's the Bajoran security guard.
Yeah, Bajoran security guard, I meant. Yeah. What they need to do is that sometimes you just need to have a character that you might see for maybe 10, 15 seconds each episode, and then boom, then kill him off. Something like that. Somebody you might see here and there, but doesn't play a significant part, and then boom, you kill them off, and then you think, wow. I mean, that's what they need to do with some of these additional members of the crew. Make the crew more than just the fucking main cast. But unfortunately, with Star Trek, its problem has always been that the fucking crew is only the fucking main cast, and then you need someone to kill off, and you just know that they're just there for cannon fodder. But if you can get the odd person here and there to have a few lines, whatever, and then they come and go, they play no significant role in previous episodes, and then boom, you kill them off in episode 9 or 10, then it has an impact. But just bringing these two fuckers for the last episode, the penultimate episode, just to get killed off, didn't have an impact in my opinion. Obviously, Hemmer did, but that's a whole different ballgame. I personally would not have killed them off. I would have waited till season 2 and 3 before you start bumping off some of the members of this crew to start replacing them with, like, obviously Hemmer's gone now. We're going to see Scotty now take over.
I hope. I kind of hope not. I don't know if I want Scotty this soon. Did they ever mention
exactly?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind them bringing in another chief engineer, but this one then has to stick around. You can't just this can't be like Discovery where it's like a new captain every season, like a new chief engineer.
Yeah, I guess I was about to say they could Geordie LaForge him with Ortega's maybe going into engineering, but they've already established that she's a pilot, so let's not do that. And maybe the other girl, the Asian girl who we hardly see.
Mitchell. I was just going to ask, is Mitchell a legacy character from TOS? Like, I know she's not a main character from TOS, but is that a character that was around in TOS? Because I agree. I think that you can eventually start introducing these characters like Sulu and Scotty, and we've already got Uhura. But I don't know if we want I don't know if we need like that this soon. But I don't know if they've ever mentioned how long Scotty had been serving on the Enterprise in any of the 3 years that it was on the air.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, I agree. I mean, regarding Chekhov, by the way, he obviously comes in season 2 of Star Trek, the original series, but apparently regarding the canon that he was always on the Enterprise, he just got promoted to pilot, so to speak. In season 2, so there is a way of maybe having him around, and obviously Khan remembers him, and he was a season 1 character. So, anyways, where are we?
We see them tow the Peregrine out, and we cut to Hemmer, Duke, and Chia's funeral. Ortegas gives an honest and fairly moving eulogy. saying what it would be like if, Hemmer were there. And the captain, he says a few words, but Spock, he has to leave early. Nurse Chapel follows him out, and he's punching a wall panel. He can't put his emotions back away, and he can't lock them back up now that he's let it out. He says that his mind's weak, and Nurse Chapel says that doesn't make you weak; it just makes you human. And she hugs him, and he hugs back. And and then there's that lingering moment, that lingering look moment, but he leaves.
Well, this is a thing. Like Chapel should know about Vulcan biology, and she should know that he's going through that Ponfar stage in his life. So she should say, okay, listen, you're going through some Ponfar. I can help. Because she wants to help. I'm here. And she can offer no strings, maybe, but obviously she wants strings. But but she's offering herself. She's like, here you go, my services are here if you require them, Spock. Pon farm me, baby, pon far the fuck out of me, and
get that Ponfar Agra out.
I bet Nurse Chapel has a horde on.
Yeah. She is so hot for Spock. It's unbelievable, and I think for an intelligent man, Spock is extremely naive on this particular occasion. But sometimes he can be, I guess, no matter how much you fucking got your head on your shoulders. But he doesn't realize that Nurse Chapel wants fucking those pointy ears so fucking badly. So yeah, Nurse Chapel is more pon-faring than fucking Spock is. So anyways. But yeah, that was an interesting moment. It's very much a will they, won't they sort of situation. And I'm looking forward to seeing how that pans out maybe next season. So I think it's not going to go much further this season.
No, I think next episode will have a lot to do, with Spock trying to, regain control over his emotions. But we, as far as this episode's concerned, we cut to Lon. She's asking the captain for a leave of absence after finding a lead on Oriana's family. She says that she needs to be able to, go outside of Federation space to, follow the leads. She can't do that on Enterprise. He grants it. She thanks him for everything and leaves. The final scene is Uhura walking onto the bridge and looking at what we know to be one day her station.
I wonder. I mean, who's going to take La'an's place? Because there wasn't technically a chief security officer on the Enterprise and TOS. Go ahead.
I think that they'll move Una back to that spot and kind of do what because they were had that question episode 1, who will be security. That was usually my gig. I think they'll move Una back there, and not having Una having to try to be that science person will let them use Spock for the sciencey smart person every episode again, and it'll solve that problem of them not knowing what to do with number 1 in any given episode and sidelining her a lot.
It is true. There is no place for her to really sit on the bridge anymore now that you got Ortega's on the bridge. And then, she normally would sit somewhere on that front console, but it wasn't always, So I guess that is true. I guess she would be good chief security officer. So, that's good. I like La'an, and I know that there's a lot of contention with her canon whereabouts and yada yada, because of the Noonien Singh and all that.
Which I agree.
So
I agree to that. By the way, they just make her a badass character. She doesn't have to be a Singh. Not everything needs to be connected.
I agree. I agree. I don't think they needed to. I don't think they needed to really Noonien Singh her. I thought that she could have been just a troubled character with a past with the Gorn. and is just a really good security officer. I don't see why we had to put Noonien Singh on the end of her name.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, well said, guys. I agree.
All right, we gonna mark it.
Yeah, let's go from the top left. Sam, why do you mark this one / overall thoughts?
No originality in this episode, but it was good fun. The ending is very bittersweet. Killing off a character like Hemmer, who's a fan favorite already in one season, who's hardly been in every episode, I think was premature. You have no problem with him being killed off, but for fuck's sake, this is season 1. But I don't know, like 7 out of 10, I guess. Yeah, 7 out of 10 for me is a good mark for 100%. I'm sorry, Mr. Vance. I do apologize. Fantastic episode for some people, and okay episode for me.
Well, he has the same. Daniel has the same idea as you.
We said that. Alien 3, Aliens as well, because he had Newt in it, Predator, and Jaws. That's what I thought. All of those mixed into one.
I'm gonna give this a 9 out of 10. I really enjoyed it. I get it. It had Alien 3 vibes. I get it, but I mean, it is very bittersweet when it comes to Hemmer dying, but at the same time, I don't know. It felt like that was very important to Uhura's story. I felt like if you put it off any longer, I felt like Uhura would have had a hard time finding her where she was going, and I think Hemmer was kind of the catalyst to that. And I mean, she was kind of at the end of her kind of rope, and she really needed that catalyst that Hemmer had to. And I mean, and they were on that ice world, and it reminded of Andoria, and just the whole moment was just so good. And I get it; it's a ripoff of Aliens 3, but it's like, it was such a good moment. I loved it. I'm definitely giving it a 9 out of 10. The suspense was real for me. I finally got to see somewhat the Gorn. I'd like to see what an adult Gorn looks like, but I'm okay with them taking their time in showing us, because that just builds up the suspense even more. I like the fact that they're teasing us with it. They're not, trying. And even La'an even said, a lot of people have seen the Gorn. They just don't live long enough to tell anybody else. So, now we can't say that so much, but still, they haven't even seen like a full-grown Gorn. So definitely 9 out of 10 for me. I think this show is knocking it out of the park every single week.
They look like iguanas right now. And by the way, we all want a hug from Nurse Chapel.
Oh,
Nurse
absolutely.
Chapel is offering her Ponfar services to a very hot-headed spot.
Ponfar, I got it.
Tua did have a security chief. Who was that? I mean, I thought maybe to a degree, Scotty kind of did both roles. To a degree.
I don't know. I mean, maybe. I mean, it just depends on your. I mean, because technically, a security chief should have been a red shirt. I mean, it wouldn't have been Uhura.
Scotty was a red shirt.
Huh?
Scotty was a red shirt.
Yeah, but he was an engineer, so that's why I'm like. I mean, you're right. Maybe he might have been, but still, at the same time, it's like I don't remember him leading security details.
He felt like he threw his fists around and stuff like that. Anyway, yeah. What about yourself, Mage?
I really enjoyed this episode. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. I haven't seen Aliens movies and Predator that many times, so some of the more subtle references were lost on me. So maybe I enjoyed it more because I was just seeing it as Star Trek doing a horror episode. Good character development. Did a good job of wrapping up this arc for Uhura. The send-off of Hemmer was great. As much as I hate it, I'm going to miss the hell out of him. I loved the character.
Great shit. So I'll mention security into it. Devil in the Dark is Lieutenant Commodore G. Otto. I put a bit of an accent on that. Okay, fair enough. I don't know who the fuck he is. But,
okay,
fair enough.
Well, good job, Commander Guido. Or Godo. Good. Yeah, and I know red shirts are security and engineers. That's why they get killed so much, because they're always in the forefront. In the original series. All right. Is that
I don't really have anything else to say. You guys, basically said it, a lot of the same
We're
stuff that
diving
I
into
was
Orville
thinking.
now.
All right,
Yeah.
excellent. I'll get out of you guys' way. Have fun with that, guys. I'm going to go work on getting caught up and ready. Hopefully by next week, I should be all caught up.
Oh, by the way, one more. You can join us for the boys tomorrow.
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay.
That's
I look
at
forward to it.
right. Yeah, you're 8:30.
8 o'clock. 8 o'clock. Maybe 8:30 if you need it to be UK
No,
time.
just whichever is best for you guys. For now, live long
Fantastic.
and prosper, buddy.
Yeah, live long and prosper, mate.
don't get eaten by a Gorn?
I'll try my best. No promises.
Okay. I just want to say that if we had to measure which episode was the best between Star Trek: Strange New Worlds and the Orville, I would have to still say that Orville's episode was better. I had such a fucking good time with this episode because it really got me in the feels. I think I would have liked I would have been more emotional if we took more time with Hemmer in Strange New Worlds. We really had a handful of episodes with him. Episode 9, and he wasn't in every episode.
No, there was like 2 or 3 episodes he was not even seen.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
don't get me wrong.
it's a
As I said, I agree with you that it was a bit early. It was definitely a bit early to kill him off, but death comes at at no perfect time. So
I agree. With this episode of the Orville, also known as Season 3, Episode 5, A Tale of Two Topos, it really, it's amazing, how this episode represents current events, and it. This was a really, really good dramatic episode where you think it's going to be mainly like a Kelly focus episode regarding the main cast, but the Porters had a part to play. Dr. Claire Finn had a part to play. Isaac had a part to play. There were some significant roles for everyone in this episode, and obviously the character of Topaz, who I don't know how old was she, but she seems to have grown up pretty quick, don't you think? I mean,
I think they have a quicker. I think they have a quicker maturation cycle, though. Like I think they say something about that they grow up faster than because season 1 she was a baby, and then then now. So I think they do have a quicker growth cycle than humans do. I think it was mentioned back then, but I don't know. I really enjoyed this episode. And I agree with you. I think that Orville definitely did better this week than Strange New Worlds. Strange New Worlds was a great episode, but Orville New Horizons just knocked it out of the park again this week with another great episode. And they tied in something from earlier in the season that kind of tied into what's happening in this episode with the whole Isaac thing, and the suicide thing. And I mean, but they're tying everything all together. And this episode was an hour and 15 minutes. And not saying that that's bad. They gave the episode the time it needed to tell a good story. And that's what I feel like is missing with streaming services nowadays is you see a lot of these shows having they still have that TV format where it's like we can only go 45 minutes. And it's like, no. If you have a story that can go for an hour and 15 minutes and it's a good story, run with it. You can do an hour and 15 minutes. Don't leave anything on the cutting room floor just because of time constraints. Like it's not happening anymore. So
yeah, I totally agree. We did have some of the comedy elements back in this episode too, like in the beginning of this episode. And I'm unfortunately I'm unable to do a breakdown because I've only seen this episode once, and that was this morning. But from what I can remember, we had like a Indiana Jones-esque sort of start to this episode with them coming across this alien ancient temple, and I like the way what's his face Isaac becomes like the sacrificial lamb, so to speak, to set off all the booby traps, and he presses the button on the wall, and then boom, all these spikes come at him, and next you know they open up the door and there's a treasure hoard, so to speak. More of an archaeological find, but still they find all of that sort of stuff. And I thought maybe this episode was going to be something about that along those lines, like awaken some ancient alien curse, or some other aliens want to come along and reclaim what they feel it belongs to them, or something along those lines. But it never went down that route at all, because we didn't see obviously Topus doing like a Orville version of the Kobayashi Maru against the Kalon, and the Kalon really are like the Krill and the Kalon, like they're two sets of evil, so to speak, from different perspectives. So it'll be interesting to see what more we get from the Kalon in the future. Tanya wants it. I'm glad Topus didn't set off a booby trap to commit suicide. I really thought this was going down that route. You really thought that? No. I think this was always going to have a bittersweet ending, but not in the sense of her killing her off. Because, end of the day, what was so fascinating about this is that this is like a bit like this is an episode that represents transsexuals and transition and stuff like that. But it was like a little bit in reverse, because this particular person was born a girl. She was born female, and without her consent, her parents turned her.
And that goes all the way back to season 1, right? Or season 1 or season 2? I'm pretty sure it's season 1.
Season 1, I believe, episode 2.
Yeah, 2 or 3. Yeah,
it was a very early episode. Because Macklin's, initially we all thought they were male, but I think 1% of the population is female.
Well, we also learned that Clyde, Bortus's husband, was
born
I don't know
female.
if that's new information. I honestly don't remember, because it's been so long since I went and watched season 1. But I believe we learned that Clyde was born female initially, and then he even says in this that I wish I never knew.
I agree. I do think this was information given to us from a previous season, whether it be 2 or 1. But is it Clyde or Clyden?
Or it might be Clyden. Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's Clyden.
Yeah, because he was definitely born female. I do recall, and like you can see Topus. She's a sweet young boy at the time, and she obviously has a lot of questions, and she confides in Kelly quite a lot, because Kelly is a strong female character. She's a leader. She's a badass and stuff like that, and she confides in her a lot and asks her a whole bunch of questions, and that's when you can see that Kelly's mind's ticking a little bit, because Kelly obviously knows the truth regarding Topus. So she was there at the beginning as well, and that's when she starts asking questions to Bortus and hubby, Clyde, and that's it. When Clyde told Topus he wished she was never born. Damn, talk about self-hatred taken too far. But yeah, it represents what's real, though, which is why, even though it was a horrible scene, it was a scene that needed that. There are people who are like this, who will resent their own children because their children's happiness is not as important as their own happiness.
Yeah, and I mean, I was never a fan of Clyden before that. Like, even of episode 3 of season 1. I went and looked, by the way. It is episode 3 of season 1. From then on, I wasn't a fan of him. But like after this episode, I'm like, fuck that guy. Like Bortus deserves to be happy. He can go find somebody else to be happy with. Like
but I remember when they were still going down very much the comedy element. Bortus was very much like Clyden. But then he had a revelation watching some cartoon or something like that, which changed his opinion on things. And he's always had this change of opinions, plus because he mingles with humans all the time and stuff like that. You can see that his way of thinking has been altered, so to speak. But I'm just trying to remind myself more about this episode. There was, just to go on some of the side issues, like for instance, we had this one guy he's a blow bar. Who's like this dude who the first day of every month has to be totally naked when he's working.
That's that. But here's the thing, though. Why not just give him the first day of every month off? Like,
I was thinking that too, and not only that, but he did come up with a great argument, saying, "What about that big dude, that big fat dude?
Yeah.
He walks around naked, and no one thinks shit about that." and that was a great argument.
Yeah,
But,
like that's why I was
um,
like, I think that's a stupid. I think that's stupid for her to respond saying, "Well, he'd have to wear a tent." It's like, yeah, but he's still right. Like I thought she
Yeah.
was gonna be like, you know what, just take the first of every month off, and then boom.
But she did come with a compromise saying, okay, but yeah, wear pants instead. Okay, fair enough. That's also a decent
But I still
compromise.
feel like that's infringing on his religious beliefs or whatever. I mean, I know it's mucky, but it's still like,
Well, religious belief works two ways because at the same time, like he's infringing on union regulations, so to
yeah,
speak. So it's a two-way street. So a compromise was required, and yeah, that was pretty cool. But that was it to the button. Obviously, that shows you some of the comedy as well. But regarding Topher, like Kelly kind of sends like a little Easter egg her way, regarding who she is, and she checks out this particular file, and it's also named after a cake as well, and she can't access this file, so she eats a cake named after the file, and then boom, she gets a password. And this whole time I thought maybe Kelly was the one who sent her the password, but we find out it's Mortis.
yeah.
You know?
I actually thought that. I for some reason in my mind it popped in my head. I was thinking, I'm like, somebody else sent him the password because the way that they didn't get she didn't get into the file, and then she went and she ate the, well, she was a he at this point, whatever, but like she went and she got the cake and she sat on the way she did that, and then all of a sudden the password popped up. I felt like someone else sent her the password, and my first thought was Bortus because he was very like wishy-washy about whether he was okay with this or not, like whether he was okay with Clayton's just viewpoints on this.
Yeah, you could tell. I mean, the interaction between him and Clayton was fascinating. It really was. Like him and Clayton were not on the same wavelength. And
You talk about
and you saw
Clayton?
them. Clayton, sorry, I called him Clayton. I apologize.
No, I just
Bortus,
want to make sure. I was like, wait a minute, are we
Bortus,
talking
yeah.
about Bortus or Clayton?
Well, both of them, because they're not. They're a couple, and they were withholding information from their son at the time, and then they were honest with him, and then like Clayton is not happy about this. He's very upset. He's very angry. Yes, you're right about the self-hatred, Daniel Vance. It was just so brilliant. But then the moment where Bortus goes to speak to Kelly, and like, wow, like, amazing acting, man, amazing acting. Like, one of the things I always appreciate about actors is when they can make themselves cry. Out of all the things you can do, to make your eyes water and to leak those fucking tears, it's a fucking art form, man. And he
All
was
I have
so
to do
good
is
at
think
it.
about Hemmer dying, and then I start to cry.
Yeah, but you gotta get yourself in an emotional state, and for him to do that, and to like get, sometimes like these actors, they try to get a tear coming, they get themselves all emotional so they can get one tear out. This guy was bubbling from both fucking eyeballs, and
He's sitting there
it's just
pulling on
brilliant.
his pubes or something.
Maybe, but it was so well done, and how he felt about the procedures and everything, and just going back to Topus, we get, and I'm going to use this as an example. I'm just going to share this picture, by the way. We fall back to season 1 here, and this is some good callbacks. Remember this?
Mm-hmm.
This lady, because she was a Mucklin female.
Yep.
And she was basically talking to the Mucklins, but obviously the Mucklins are very rigid in their beliefs and stuff like that. And but she was a Mucklin female. Not only did we see her, we saw images of the old crew from season 1, like that girl who was a security officer, and stuff like that. It was brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant. And we even heard the simulation when they let the simulation play. We hear her speak, and it influences Topus She wants to transition back to who she was. We even got a picture of her on the bridge. Actually, that's actually near the end of the episode. But Kelly is really like an inspiration to her. And I'm going to call her her. I was like mixing between the pronouns. But I'm going to call her her because that's who she always is. That's who she was from the beginning. And eventually she wants to go through the procedure. But then we get some really strange moments between Orville hierarchy and the team of the Union hierarchy, so to speak, because they don't want, this is a big deal. They don't want the Mucklins to leave the Union at the same time because of how they are and stuff like that. And they end up having to do a walk around a loop. They do like a loophole thing where Claire was offering to resign in order to do this, to transition Topper back to a girl, but that means she would have to lose her rank and her position, but she was willing to give up her career to help this person. But then Isaac says he would do it, and that was just a really brilliant turnaround. Another guitar, Charlie Burke. Charlie is so hateable when I remember her name. I miss Alara. Love seeing her again. Who's the other about?
Alara is the old security. Oh
Yes.
I can't remember. Yeah, Alara is. She says Alara is greater than Charlie Burke. I don't know what that means. I mean, Charlie's one of the new navigators.
Charlie, but I think he missed out a comma. Charlie Burke. Charlie is so hateable when I see.
Oh yeah, okay.
When I remember her name,
because I thought Charlie's the new chick, right? That hates Isaac.
Charlie's the new girl, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Charlie's a new girl, but I think her and Isaac will eventually. I mean, she's already kind of like even though she saved Isaac's life, she hasn't buried the hatchet. But I think there'll be an episode where her and Isaac are stuck on a bloody planet together and some shit like that.
I hope not. I mean, that's just very tropish. Like that reminds me of an episode of Deep Space Nine where Odo and Quark got stuck on a planet, and it's like, but at the end of the episode, they were still in the same place when Odo was still trying to arrest Quark at the end of the episode, and I thought that was like the greatest ever. Like, they work together to survive, but Odo's still like, I'm still going to arrest you if I can. I was like, yeah, I love this show.
So I do remember Clyden going to see Kelly in her office, and he fucking like Kelly's ready to throw down. Well, Clyden wants to throw down initially, but Kelly's ready to defend herself, and eventually Clyden does throw down. He gets so pissed off that he attacks her, and she
Kelly
gives him
takes
a warning.
The task.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, but this is, even though Clyden's in the wrong, pretty much throughout this episode, you can see how emotional he is with it. He's very emotional. He doesn't want this to happen, and he's doing everything he can to stop it, even though he's in the wrong. And Portis, obviously, he sees things totally different. And eventually, Isaac decides to take on board the procedure, and then he does the procedure. He then gets met by Clyden just before he continues, and he says something along the lines of that your culture indoctrination is not making you see things correctly. I'm butchering the line. I do apologize, but it was so well said, by Isaac, regarding this particular moment, and the way he stopped him as well. He stopped Clyden. Was fucking fantastic. I loved every moment of it. And Clyden had to walk off with his tail between his legs, and then the procedure went ahead, and you can then see how happy Topaz was. Her voice changed a little. She sounds feminine, and also I'm sorry for jumping all over the place, but once it was confirmed that Topaz was a girl and she wanted to be a girl, they stopped calling everyone on the Orville apart from Clyden stopped calling her he and started calling her she, even before the operation. They called her by the correct pronouns. And I reckon those are little things you pick up on, and you very much appreciate those.
Yeah, I did pick up on that. That's yeah.
So it's really good. It's just so fucking good, man. This episode is so fucking good, and because finally she gets what she wants, and then she presents herself to Clyden. Clyden already said that he was going to leave Bortus if this procedure went ahead, and it did. Yeah, it did, and he not only leaves Bortus, but he tells his now daughter, I wish you were never born
Fuck that guy.
but it was look, it's wrong, but it's brilliant at the same time. Like
it emulates like real life trauma that kids of this world have had to go through. Like, yes, this is fantasy, but they are doing things in this season that are emulating things that are happening in real life, and some people just don't. Like, I didn't grow up with that kind of childhood, but there are people out there who grew up with that kind of childhood where their kids or their parents hated their kids because they are what they were, And I'm not talking about even just gender. I'm talking kids with disabilities, kids that just, talk a lot, kids that just, do what like, and that's the thing is like, there are asshole people out there that resent their children for just who they are, and that's, I think one of the points they're trying to get across here with this is, not only is it, the gender thing, but it's also, parents, like, parents need to kind of look in on themselves and figure out what is important. Who are we doing this for, and why is it important? Are you doing this for yourself, like Clyde, or are you wanting to do this for your child and letting your child decide? Which was Bortus, because Bortus he was screaming to let Topa decide for herself, and Clyden was just like, no, our tradition, our blah 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 blah, and it didn't matter what she wanted, it didn't matter what Bortus wanted. Clyden wanted it his way, or and everything else was a bastardation. And that's one of the great things about this episode is that they really address that issue really, really well, but it's a real life thing.
This is the thing with parents as well, because they feel that because they are the people who look after you and shelter you and feed you, that they also able to dictate you, and that's not necessarily the case. You can't use those particular issues in life then to say, okay, fine, because I put a roof over your head, you can't be a girl. It doesn't like these sort of things. This is not how the world fucking works. It might a lot of old school people might think like that and feel that they're able to dictate to people how they have to dictate to them, but that's not necessarily the case. As a parent, you have to understand that if like these decisions don't get made lightly. I never once thought in my life I was a fucking girl. I mean, yes, I've worn heels and stuff like that. But I never once fucking thought, yeah, I really am a girl in a man's body. That's never crossed my mind. But those sort of issues go through the minds of kids at an early age because they know at an early age, they know who they are at an early age, and it's very hard for parents to accept these things. And this episode was just so fucking fantastic. It really got me in the feels, man. It really did. We do culminate with obviously with everyone in the Orville being very progressive people and understanding human and just emotion, just generally they make Topaz feel great about herself, and they let her basically put the ship into quantum drive and stuff like that to give her a taste of commanding. Because I do feel if we can get more episodes in the future, she will be a cadet. She will be an ensign for sure.
I kind of want this to be like the Nog of this series, like the character that just, because remember, Nog had such a strong character arc in Deep Space Nine. Like I want Topa to be like the Nog of this show. I want that strong character arc. She joins the Union. She goes through all this adversity. But here's the one thing about this episode that I was kind of scratching my head at was like it seemed like the Moclans were very nonchalant about the fact that okay, so they were upset that the procedure was done. They are upset that
Yeah.
a Kalon did it, but they're not asking for the Kalon to be turned over to them. You know what I like? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
they're not asking for any
Yeah.
repercussions for Isaac, who did the procedure. And yes, Captain Mercer and all them, they're all in the clear. Dr. Finn's in the clear. All against their knowledge. This happened against their knowledge. But still, Isaac's still there and suffers no ramifications. And not that I want Isaac to suffer ramifications, but it was a little head scratching that they just kind of let that go. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if we had an episode where like a Mocklin stealth party comes and tries to kill Isaac. Like a Section 31 of the Mocklins or something like that.
I'm really happy you brought that up because it did slip my mind. Like the Union leaders told Captain Mercer and Commander Kelly not to go ahead with this, but they do it anyway by doing a workaround with the loopholes and making Isaac do it because he's not a member of the Union. He's not a member of the Orville theoretically, and he works on there, but he's not a fleet member. And so that was their workaround. But regardless of that, the admirals are not stupid. They know, they know that still they went against their wishes. But somehow what they were saying made no sense. But they did the right thing apparently, and I just couldn't grasp what the fuck was going on. But fair enough, because it seemed that nobody, not one person, suffered any consequences whatsoever. So that was a bit of a weird ending, so to speak. But they might as well have not brought up that shit with the fucking ambassadors and the fucking admirals and stuff like that. If this is how they're going to wrap it up. It was a waste of a storyline, in my opinion. So like maybe they didn't have to go into that much depth. They could have just still somehow got Isaac to do it because Claire couldn't do it because of Federation oath or some shit. Sorry, Union oath or some shit. They could come up with some other bullshit.
It was a very. I understood the workaround and I understood the loophole, but I'm like, the Mocklins really are very nonchalant about the fact that this Kalon is still on the ship. He performed the procedure on her, and he's still allowed to be there. Like I figured the Mocklins would have been like, well, we want Isaac for our judgment then. Like we will leave the daughter alone, but we want the Kalon for our judgment. Since he's not a Union member, they could exercise him. You know what I mean? That's why I'm thinking maybe in the near future we might see some Mocklins, maybe like a stealth team or something, trying to kill Isaac or trying to capture Isaac or something. I don't.
We do have like a planet of Mocklin females, don't we? We saw that in previous. So I think there's more. I don't know. It's just. I think maybe like the Mocklins are coming around a little bit. Maybe Clyden isn't. But with the discovery of all these female Mocklin refugees living in hiding and stuff, which that came to, that was revealed and stuff like that. Maybe people's opinions are turning, but I thought this particular bit of story was very stupid and very irrelevant. And honestly, considering what happened, the Mocklins shouldn't be so stupid. They still went to get their wishes regarding of the loophole. They went to get their wishes, and they should have left the Union, in my opinion. That would have been a bigger story angle, and then maybe Bortus would have been put in a situation. But I did like the way, just to go on to a different subject now, I did like the way that after Clyden left, Bortus said to his daughter, "You're perfect."
Mm-hmm.
Very much reassuring. And even Isaac as well, doing some of that bedside manner. Because you could see how nervous Topus was by having this this operation. Operations, I'm not sure if have you ever had an operation?
I've never had an operation.
From what I can hear from people, it's a fucking nerve-wracking thing.
Mm-hmm. I imagine they're cutting you open.
Yeah,
and I mean this is the 25th century, so obviously they have less invasive ways. But I mean.
It makes me laugh because like you constantly hear about that there's no emotion and all of that sort of stuff from like androids like Data and now Isaac, but I think they don't realize that there's more to them than they realize themselves. they care more than they care to say, which is I think almost like sometimes these androids are deceiving themselves by saying they don't care when they genuinely do, so yeah, that's what I think about that too. So, but yeah, fantastic episode. This might this almost it was almost a 10. I'm gonna give it a 9. It was very, very good. It was very, very good. Just a little bit here and there with the fucking admirals and stuff like that. Oh yeah, don't forget Bortus was singing in this as well, and he told Dr. Finn's son,
Yeah.
"That's too high a key." Like
my girlfriend actually came and sat down for a couple minutes when that part was playing, and he's like, "That's the wrong, or that key's too high," and she's like, "He's an asshole." She has no idea about Orville. Like, she has no idea. And like, I'm like, oh god. I'm like, yeah, he's not really an asshole. Just there's a lot going on right now, and I mean, he kind of is an asshole, but not incredibly. Like,
no, he's not an arsehole at all. It's hard to even explain that. Maybe he was under a bit of stress or whatever.
More of the deadpan personality is maybe more what I'm talking. Yeah.
And deadpan characters in Trek and Orville are very funny. People don't realize how funny they can be. There's so many moments like that. It was very good. I really enjoyed it. Yeah, 9 out of 10 for me. Once again, it gets close to perfect. And this is without that for me the best episode of Orville I've ever seen. Whether it be season 1, 2, or 3, this is the best. This is fan. It got me in the feels, man. It really did. I was close to fucking crying. It was that good. Even the girl who played Topaz, fantastic young actress, fantastic. Anyway, how about yourself?
I mean, I was going to give it a 10 out of 10 because I thought it was a very excellent episode. I mean, I don't think it hit me in the feels like you did, but that's not to say, as I said, it wasn't a good episode. It just didn't hit me the same way you did, but it was still a really good episode. I know that my ranking scale is a little more skewed than yours, but I mean, I don't know. I kind of like this. I like to stick by my 10 out of 10. I mean, last week, Strange New Worlds got a 10 out of 10 for me. This week, Orville got a 10 out of 10. As I said, there's some really good space sci-fi on right now, and people who are not watching space sci-fi for like Trek stuff, they're missing out. They are missing out.
Yeah.
If people don't think that Orville and Strange New Worlds right now is not Trek enough for them, then it blows my mind what will actually make. Like, I don't know what will ever make them happy besides them watching reruns of TOS. And let's be honest, I'm going to say it. TOS is nowhere near my favorite Trek. Neither is TNG. I'm sorry. Like, it's not. So, but I do. I really think Orville and Strange New Worlds is knocking it out of the fucking park right now.
Orville is TNG. Today's TNG, in my opinion. It 100% is.
Actually, it's taking more risks than TNG did, I feel.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's got some there were some risque episodes in DS9 when it was not doing anything to do with the fucking with the whole fucking war around the wormhole and shit like that. Like the episode with Dax's ex-boyfriend who now became a girlfriend and stuff like that. Like there were some risque episodes.
No, yeah, but I think Orville is taking a lot more risks than TNG did even back in those days.
Yeah, we called it risk, but I think there were episodes like that back then, but no one cared as much as they care now. Like anything like this nowadays, like people call Star Trek woke nowadays. I'm thinking to myself, have you not seen the original series? Have you not seen TNG? Have you not seen DS9? Have you not seen Voyager? For fuck's sake!
Yeah, all those shows were woke for their time. Like, woke wasn't a thing back then. If woke was a thing back then, Trek would have been woke back then too. I don't understand why people cannot make this. I love the memes that people say. They're like, oh, I don't want all the memes about the original series and TNG about oh, I like it when my Trek wasn't woke, and then has a picture of Dax kissing Dax, who was a former man, kissing the I think the former lover, which was a woman. And it's like,
Shatner kissing her, Kirk kissing Uhura.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah, exactly. So, but Daniel once has said,
He said a
I
couple
like it,
things.
Isaac, to World War II generation where emotions were just weren't talked about. Okay, and for all of mankind to this list, it is a superb sci-fi.
Oh, yeah, I
And
just haven't
actually,
seen it. I got to sit down and watch it.
I am going to change my mark. By the way, I did say this is the best episode of Orville for me. So for that reason alone, I think I'm going to make it a 10 out of 10.
10 out of
I
10!
think so. Yeah, 10 out of 10 because I think the imperfections shouldn't blemish in what is. Like I said, I sometimes have to really hold myself back from crying. Because when I'm alone and I watch something and it makes me cry or want to cry, it's like, can't hold it in, Sam. Don't do it. Yeah, if you call Trek work, you have to call over work as well. Yeah, and they are. But I like this sort of stuff. Like these are real life things. For some people, they just don't like real life events, or they never cared about real life events in the past. But now, because of how their personas are shaped, anything that reminds them of what a cunt they are, yeah, what I mean, is woke. So
Yep.
yeah, and that's the world we live in today, unfortunately. But it is what it is. So yeah, okay. So tomorrow we're going to be talking about The Boys, episode 7 of season 3. If you saw last week's episode, it was without doubt one of the greatest bits of television I've ever seen. And not only that, and I know you haven't seen Game of Thrones, but it did remind me that wow, it did make me think, wow, The Boys is the new Game of Thrones. It really is. It really fucking is. It's that must see television that is not for kids. Very, very, very funny in the darkest sense of humor. Gory, nudity, all of that sort of shit. Good storylines, good twists, not generic whatsoever. It's really good. And I cannot wait for tomorrow's episode. And then on Sunday, we're going to be talking about the finale of Stranger Things
Is this
season
the
4.
end of it? Or
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm not sure about this if this is going to be the end of it, but this is the end of season 4. Season is funny. Like the first half is 7 episodes, and the last half I think is 2 episodes. But one episode is like an hour and a half, and the other episode is like 2 hours.
so it's basically 2 movies?
Pretty much, and that comes out tomorrow, which is another reason why I'm taking a day off. Because I need to watch The Boys, need to watch this, digest it all, and plus I need some time off. I don't want to fucking work all the fucking time. Anyways, yeah, you're right. Let's wrap this up. So don't forget to like, share, subscribe to NerdTube. Cheeto, thank you very much for being with me, and Daniel Vance and everyone else in the chat, like Jim, as well as Michael earlier, Bandit, and your girlfriend. Thank you very much for joining us. And Mike, yeah, I mentioned Mike.
Well, I meant Michael Strathmore.
Yeah, he's currently writing an essay as we speak. So
hey, they're great. If y'all go to our YouTube comments and read it, I mean, they are definitely worth to read.
Yeah, he definitely does put a lot into it. So it's worth reading. Maybe you can comment on one of his comments, Daniel Vance. My God, this guy fucking writes a whole fucking essay. So yeah, don't forget to like, share, subscribe to NerdTube, the greatest YouTube channel you never heard of. Take care. We'll see you tomorrow for The Boys. Bye bye. May the force be with you.